A divine spark! Some cautious tolerance of the thrice-cursed witch, and blood for the Emperor! Skulls for the Golden Throne!
So you said something a bit off during a mission, raising the eyebrows of those pesky Warhammer fans, and perhaps cursing the 5 remaining residents of Enclave and Barros with a slightly higher blood pressure. There are a few characters in Darktide able to spot the difference between hearty Imperial hymnals and war cries celebrating the god of slaughter. Zealots, who have been taught that shedding blood in the Emperor's name will get you a pat on the back in the afterlife, are not among them. That very privilege belongs to those who enjoy mocking Imperial hypocrisy, veterans who have actually fought Cornite cultists, or arbitrators, who at some point studied the difference and used that knowledge to deliver justice to a Toba.
Sometimes even the rocks are heretics.
Before I commit to more stupidity by grossly exaggerating the influence of a single ability voice line, I think it will be best to quietly introduce the next victim in this series. Starting beef with inanimate objects is the baseline level of ridiculousness you could expect from half the roster, though the folks who do it best clad themselves in a layer of faith thicker than any other. While this belief wall has an actual practical use against the hazards of Hive Tertium, it's also a complete detriment to human decency, and few have been challenged more by their own silly made-up creed than the Fanatic zealot.
"'Tis not funny!"
Inquisition suicide missions offer little relief from the duty of being a divine vessel of hatred, yet Fanatic has found a couple of methods to cope with their burdens. You might occasionally hear the grumbling of a priest who has yet to fulfill a certain elective task, a search of sorts, to help lighten the weight of past sins. In a way, it's a relief to know that Fanatic has found a substance more intoxicating than the collective bloodlust of every soulful being. At the same time, I suspect the two go hand in hand for some people. Alcoholism and a need to redeem yourself in the viscera of heretics are traits you can get by with when the name of the game is to eviscerate heretics. But as a preacher, you still have to remain somewhat coherent, ready to take on the spiritual failings of your party. For example, when one of the buggers decides that the God Emperor of Mankind is their best friend, not yours. In times such as these, it's probably for the best that that very person doesn't notice how thoroughly zonked you are.
Your brain is so strange, it floats on a cloud of alcohol.
Ye stay out of my thoughts, do you hear me?
Oh, I'm not prying. You're practically screaming for help. It's very distracting.
I shall nae ask ye again.
A priest who can knock a few back isn't exactly a unique take, I say with only 3 examples in mind after some real hard thinking. So it's the job of those who do the character stuff to give these personalities nuance, or at least bombard the players with batches of soon-to-be vocal stems. Besides, I'm sure Fanatic wasn't just an excuse to write another Scottish bloke under the influence. That would be absolutely flipping mad. Before we get into the reasons for all that drinking, other than they're a human in the 40k universe, you might be pleased to know that the tertium brain virus that is responsible for rejects occasionally being nice to each other has not lost its edge. As in when Morrow sticks a zealot on a team with mutant freaks and they're all forced to work together, the lifelong barriers of doctrine start to melt a little. Not enough that you could scoop away all the nastiness, but enough to jumpstart the part of Fanatic's brain that experiences compassion.
I'm glad that the God Emperor moved me to spare your life. Spare my life? How many times have you tried to kill me exactly? Really? I didn't take ye for a petty mind troubled by insubstantial details.
Oh, forgive me for thinking my own murder an insubstantial detail.
Of course! I shall gladly do so.
So maybe compassion is too strong a word, considering how most interactions seem to play out. For every endearing gesture of tolerance, well, there's probably something less friendly cooking up in those brains of theirs, and fanatics find themselves flip-flopping on which teachings to invoke every now and then.
They're gonna kill themselves. Wanna watch?
Yeah, all right.
Though Fanatic's morbid fascination with the wizarding world doesn't always translate into any budding kinships, it does fuel some fantastic line deliveries. This makes them perfect battlefield tale tellers or spiritual orators, which I thought were cool ways to describe their occupation, until I realized those words were just hastily written synonyms of the title, zealot, preacher.
The God Emperor rules 1,000,000 worlds. He'll not let a single one fall. Shit!
Now anyone can recite the Lex Imperialis to a crowd of half-dead manufactorum workers, and last time I checked, Darktide's strike teams are a tough crowd. Worse, they're all filled with the kinds of people that Fanatic has been admonishing, who themselves are clearly having trouble thinking of ways to ferry along their squad to the path of enlightenment. Quite the dilemma in the 40k universe. There's more to it than that, however, as Fanatic gives off the impression that they've had a more solid education than the other zealot personalities, with the most evidence for this theory being the competition itself. Needless to say, countless witch hunts, minor crusades, and most importantly, long days in the confessional are poor things to boast when the only thing keeping Fanatic alive is an abhuman with 3 revised speed curios.
I see now one singular truth that had eluded me prior. Every man of faith should have an ogren at his side.
Because we're strong, loyal, handsome.
Because you're tough. Why, you laugh off wounds that would leave me screaming. I'm glad for you to bear them in my stead.
Always here to serve, even when it hurts.
During the rise to Acolyte, when 4 pissy undergeared rejects start to get to know each other, there's a much higher chance of certain conversations playing out. The one I have in mind covers a particularly hot topic: whether the withered soul of an Ogren can be redeemed in the eyes of the Emperor, whether the big fellas have a soul in the first place, and whether there's anything wrong with being a giant drooling idiot. Just because you love the God Emperor fanatically does not mean you won't get stuffed into a funny torture box at some point. You can do everything right and still end up in a cell opposite the stinkiest man in the segmentum, as many of our rejects have discovered. Hestia vaulting her cubicle to share in your blessing doesn't change the fact that the act of redemption is a lifetime gig. It isn't only a concern for confused Ogrins, it's a concern for everyone, especially fanatics, who have definitely not done everything right.
Do you think I might be a saint one day?
Why not? Anything's possible. Why'd you care? You'll be dead.
Black were my deeds before Zola offered redemption. But a saint is pardoned of all sins and need apologize for naught.
And there was me thinking you just wanted a statue. Throne. Your head is a bag of terror squirrels and no mistake.
Believe me, I know. I cannot be petty and prideful to seek redemption, but my heart yearns for it all the same.
Try not to worry about it. Redemption is just a word. People like us don't get to pick and choose. We just put the boot in and get our retaliation in first.
Aye, but it wasn't a boot. It was flame. Lots and lots of paltry flame. I can still hear the screams begging for mercy.
We are talking heretics, right?
So I believed at the time.
Ah.
I realize it's not confirming much, it's just an on-the-nose confession in a sea of otherwise vague defining moments. And again, it's the Imperium. She could have been imprisoned for ignoring a parking ticket or something.
Oh, fuck! My car!
This little incident might have been a call to refine some of the more zealous aspects of Fanatic's personality, but perhaps that is applying too much real-life logic to 40k. In a culture where redemption is more of a suggestion offered to those who kill the enemies of mankind, and you're as guilt-ridden as the Fanatic seems, you're probably going to have to start killing people.
Yes! Burn! Burn!
Flamethrowers tend to be pretty good at doing all that, and if you sizzle enough heretics, they won't let you forget it. Pyromaniacal tendencies are a questionable trait to have after explicitly detailing the use of fire as a source of misfortune. It's a dilemma that may be above my pay grade, so I'll answer a much cooler question. When is this guy gonna finally address the differences between these two dorks?
Well, I'll tell you about it if you just calm down a flipping second.
In the past, it's been quite a pain point for me when I don't know exactly what traits the personalities share with their other half. Luckily, the differences between fanatics are less subtle. They definitely depart in some areas, and it's not because Neil has yet to make this noise.
What? You kill with such a flourish! Oh, the way you open up a vein, it's just...
I hadn't noticed. Just doing what comes natural, you can.
You're an inspiration! They should raise statues to you!
Aye, maybe they will.
How this little priest differs most from her merry counterpart shouldn't be judged by a single moment, even if it comes from one so well attuned with the psychology of mania. The characters who are more calm and reasonable people do seem to have a tendency to tiptoe around the lass a tad more than they do Grandpa. So either they recognize her volatile nature and the radiating joy that comes with being a rabid psychopath, or the anarchist's sparkling review did some numbers in the Warband group chat. Of course, when I'm only playing lines that make the Fanatic seem indisputably crazed, they're going to seem indisputably crazed. I'll let you decide if Fanatic's back and forth between these states can be considered character development, or directors not wanting to continue straining the voice of an 80-year-old man by having him scream bloody murder.
'Twas good that we were called to battle. My time otherwise hangs heavy.
Does prayer not fill such spaces in your life?
Aye, it does, but it seems empty without the blood.
Tread with care. You would not wish to lose your way.
The only guarantee of hearing a truly wrathful zealot these days comes in the form of a button press. And that's fine, it's not natural to be in a constant state of rage.
Feign deafness, pilgrims! They speak the bullshit!
In case you are still wondering about the true alignment of some characters, it's inevitable that a zealot who is willing to chow down on one of these things eventually makes an impression on more than just the hive scum. Apparently, belief can worm its way through the warp to create some useful shenanigans, provided it doesn't get lost in translation. Unfortunately for these folks who are all beams of sunshine and have nothing to hide, Darktide touches upon chaos taint and its various themes in ways you might consider unsubtle. Sephone's entire aesthetic, for example, Grendel's use of chaos buzzwords, change, the growing list of bloodthirsty personalities, and Morrow's memories of the war on Armageddon. As for hints on Nurgle influence, there's probably some there. Surely with all 4 representations of chaos running amok, the Morning Star is bound for the fiery pits of hell. Honestly, I'm convinced one of the bigger reasons for all this is that from a writing perspective, it's just way more fun to have a few cryptids who can say whatever comes to mind. Also, these lot are huge teasers, as is evidence.
He's always got a very, very strong sexual energy that calls to my sexual energy.
Even with the many playful reminders that chaos is here to stay, those of the fanatical faith have convinced themselves that Tertium must be cleansed purely for the god Emperor, which means everything's dandy, apart from all the folks who have different interpretations of the Emperor's law, who are quickly reminded that once again they're arguing with a zealot preacher, not a reasonable conversationalist.
I hear that you consider yourself innocent of all charges.
I consider the charges to be false. That's not the same thing, if you can.
Thank you for the confession. I'll be sure to log it.
Oh, aye. I'm sure you'll live long enough to do so.
Claiming to read the Lex Imperialis daily in the proximity of arbitrators, when they do not in fact do that, must take an awful lot of willpower. Or maybe it just fits in line with Fanatic being a wicked hypocrite, as it were. Perhaps the most compelling miracle performed by the Zealots is that some of these folks actually like them. Masozi somehow finds time off flying and wrestling with Brunt to provide the Fanatic with relics, mostly counterfeit ones for a laugh, but we both know none of these individuals can tell the difference.
She gave to me this blessed relic, a single
strand of St. Elena's silver hair.
Owning earthly possessions is yet another unforgivable stain on the tally of redemption, and it's hard to tell where the bar is at these days. Can you clearly define a bloodthirsty preacher who has a hive scum fan club, one who accepts the council of abhumans, or one who has girl talk about their lecherous co-workers?
What?
I'm sure they'd know what it means, even if they don't realize it's what they've become.
It means you be a degenerate.
I think I'm in love!
If me rotoscoping Invincible memes has somehow brought you closer to understanding Darktide, then whoopee! I'm glad some of it made sense, and I'll be even more glad if you forgive me for this god-awful transition. Maybe there is some silly quest for salvation to be made here on Atoma. Some blood to be spilled for the endless branching creeds of the Imperial faith, and some friends to pester on the off chance that one of them has a nip of something fiery. With luck, the guilt of bygone crimes can stop haunting these two, as I have been haunted for not finishing this video 4 months ago.
Well, look who's back.